So it looks like once again, WarLike Ref did make predictions over a year ago and they came true. WarLike Ref was right once again. The importance of this video goes one of two ways. Either A, it teaches you about what can happen, to look out for certain signs and characteristics to adapt and improve for the future, so you don't go through it again and again and again, you break the cycle. Or B, you're already aware and alert in general in life, whether it be through the influence of these videos or elsewhere by yourself. But you can always look back and reflect on what you avoided because based on your own behavior and cautiousness, right? So you could either be here watching because you've already experienced this type of drama or currently going through it, or you've adapted, you're alert, and you avoided it all, but you can at least acknowledge and highlight upon yourself of what you have managed to avoid. So there's positive ways of looking at this video. The other important factor is the drama which is being talked about and covered today. It looks like it has been patched up since, right? You might wonder, if the drama has been patched up, people have apologized to one another. The names I mentioned today, some of them have apologized to one another and it's all fine now. Maybe, maybe not, maybe it could go wrong again in the future. I'm making this video now because this video was supposed to be uploaded on the day it happened, which is about, was it 3-4 days ago? Okay. So I didn't want to pass the opportunity of covering it. Okay, yes, it's later, but it still needs to be covered because it links back to my predictions and patterns and cycles, right? This does not link to the Dylan Rounds case, okay? This is completely different. But there is that obvious link that some of the predictions I made a year ago and reiterated with time, I was right in the end, okay? So I just want to bring these points up, these key elements of how on the basis and theme where you may have people that come from an unsavory channel community, let's just say, or an unpopular one, and then merge with groups of people that dislike that unsavory community out there, or once supported them, drifted away and formed their own group. And now currently there are members within this new formed group that are still supporting the darkness out there, okay? It's an interesting situation, and I did say how if there's cracks already and it's fragmented with time, not exactly going to heal, it will end up imploding on itself to a certain extent. And that's what's kind of happened in recent time. It was a chain reaction of drama and people having a go at one another. And whilst, yes, there might have been apologies recently, at the time of when it happened 3 or 4 days ago, it's exactly how I said it would go 1 year back. So that's how long ago I made these predictions, and I was right in the end. Do I go through this type of stuff? Not really. So it shows that I am alert and cautious. On a very small scale, I've experienced the odd few individuals on my channel in which I found out that they were supporting in whatever way, right? Just simply watching or commenting on other channels out there. And whilst that's normally perfectly normal and people have their own preferences, it's what the odd few individuals were doing behind my back elsewhere, right? So in the eyes of Buster Bratamus, that's been very vocal in recent time about how he kind of despises or doesn't understand how there can be current viewers on a channel that Buster supports, and such as Twin Mama or maybe Bob Farrell. And yet there are people watching, laughing and joking and joining in conversations, having a good time, and then later going elsewhere, such as Jim Terry, actually showing support, super chats or payments, monthly subscriptions on their platform and giving money to the opposition, the enemy, the darkness. So how can you be supporting both but claim to be loyal to one when you're not really? It's kind of like moving back and forth. Bratamus has been quite vocal recently. And whilst things have been patched up since and people have apologised to one another, I just want to look back at it. This is reflecting, okay? Because it's interesting. And once again, typical how when I make predictions, it happens, right? Reflecting back on the time 3 to 4 days ago. So if any people do complain about this video, well, clearly you've not watched up to now. And if you have, well, you need to rewind back and re-listen to what I say, okay? Bratamus can be a problematic person, but I'm going to look at for and against arguments today, okay, in the eyes and mindset of him or her, whoever the hell it is. Bratamus with the dog profile picture. An individual, along with some of the other characters and names that you'll hear today, have been involved in the Dylan Rounds case in some way or another, whether they fully contributed or not, okay? And then connections with Ty Corbyn as well, friends of friends, etc., etc. It'll make more sense a bit later on. So I'm basing from my small-scale experience, okay, my own encounters as to why Bratamus originally reacted the way he did. I can understand why. And the implications it can have behind it when you do have present people who are here, laughing, joking, but also elsewhere too. Whilst it's a normal thing, sometimes it can be a problem. And that's what I'm going to highlight and explain today. So make sure to stick around so you fully understand what I'm talking about. The flow of this video and how I speak may be different. And that's because I still have a cough and a tickly throat. Every time I breathe in and out and talk, it does tickle, and I've got to try and, hold back, resist. Because if I don't, I'll cough and I'll splutter all over the place. And I might cough throughout this video, but there's nothing much else I can do. That's one of the reasons why I've not been making videos since, because honestly, what's the point? It's harder to focus, but the quality of the videos aren't as good. When you're doing a casual one like this, not as bad. But if you got to deliver a clear message and you got to point out something very important, if you can't quite focus and you just keep coughing, how are people going to listen? It's just going to be disrupted. And I don't like poor quality videos like that. So that's why I'm holding off them. When it comes to a time limited thing, yeah, maybe I'll have to try and get a video out regardless, right? But I don't want quality to be impacted by this current illness, which has been dragging on. As a brief reference point, the cough a week or two ago started off with a very tickly throat, kind of sore and dry, transformed into a bit more of a cough where you could feel it on your chest, and it kind of hurt as well. But that went. Breathing in and out wasn't as tickly. That went away too. So now I can sleep without coughing. There's been signs of improvement. But this last step, let's call it that, has just been dragging on for a bit too long. It'll go. I've had it before. The only difference is it's longer this time round, right? But once it's gone, I can do more focused videos. But for however long it lasts, well, I'm not going to, okay? Because what's the point putting yourself through that? What it would also mean is there'd obviously be more time spent editing and cutting out all the coughing and all of that. That's just more extra workload for an unnecessary outcome. You put so much in, you get so much out, right? By doing that extra editing, and like I've experienced in the past, extra editing, more time spent, more time wasted for what outcome? Same outcome as if you was to leave it basic and raw, right? But on the occasion of doing an important video, it's just not gonna have any positive effect whatsoever if you're constantly coughing, okay? So I'm doing this video now because it's partially a time-limited one, right? Previous wave of arguments and falling outs on certain channels with certain people, it's happened, some have apologised, people have moved on. But it's still a little bit here and there right now, and even Buster left a comment yet again, this time on Bob's channel, about doesn't quite sit well how there are supporters here, but also supporting Jim Terry in the background too, who's an enemy of Bob and, you know, an enemy of Twin Mama. So you'd think surely it would come to a point where you pick sides, right? If you come across as you support a channel or you show care and you're here because you like the individual, but you know, you're elsewhere supporting the darkness that's actually impacting negatively the current creator you're watching, you know, where do your loyalties lie? And I think that's what Buster is getting at. Some people out there can be very loyal to the very end and still, you know, even if it's a sinking ship, some people move on with time. A few move back and forth over and over again, problematic people back and forth. When it's working, you with one. When it's not, you move to the other, the opposition. It's like supporting, you know, two rival teams in football or something. When one team is doing well, you'll be supporting them. And then when they start losing against a rival team, then you support the opposition. It's just like, there's not much loyalty. And, you know, at the end of the day, you shouldn't feel forced to remain loyal to someone or some people, right? But I guess it just comes across and it's based down to how you present yourself. You present yourself in a certain way, the expectations may form and people may assume that you're here and only here for this person, when in reality, maybe not. Okay? So these are like the themes, what we're going to be talking about today, because I've not really mentioned it before. We've looked at the drama, the levels, how you handle it, how you avoid it, who gets it more than others, etc. And then there was another video too as to why people do it, why people get involved and how. We've done all these different themes. What this current theme is, if you haven't quite understood the video by now, take in mind, I'm talking slower than usual because if I talk too quick, it makes my throat tickle and I'm probably more likely to cough more. So I'm trying to keep it under control, okay? But the theme of this video is based off the prediction I made 1 year ago, that when people of different oppositions, opposing groups, the audience members that detach away because they've fallen out with the creator or they've been attacked themselves, they want to get away from it all, they've had enough. Finally, the breaking point has been reached. They part ways, and these opposing audiences end up forming an alliance, a new group. And at first it seems all good and happy and positive, a new direction, a new hope. But because of that rival opposition, there are cracks within. Because in the past, those rival audience groups may have had it out with one another in the past, and some of those grudges remain till this day, right? Certain disagreements, attacks, back chat, talking behind people's backs, insults, or supporting a creator that then goes after that opposite audience member of a different community. Stuff like that doesn't quite sit well with people. It's the early it's the early stages of when these different groups and audience members come together as one, where there is an understanding, but that's short term, because eventually those long-term pre-existing problems and grudges will eventually show up and occur, different points and times. To what volume, extent, who knows. But on this occasion, multiple people ended up having a go at one another and calling some out. And it was all in one stream. And whilst it's not happened since because people have made up, It did happen. And that's the importance. It did happen. I made a prediction before it happened 1 year ago, and it finally happened. But it can happen in between and in the future, and also elsewhere with other communities. As I said, the reason why it's only happened now in recent time is because in recent time, this new alliance formed, right? So a long-term prediction did happen. And it was just based off the timing of when people would group together. And it only happened recently. So that's why it's been this long in the making, okay? So I did say that things would implode on itself. Did I say communities would completely die out? No. I did mention that at some points it could lead to a few people breaking away or detaching to form their own little mini groups, right? That's still on the table. The odd few people in the ground may have already broken away, right? The lesser known individuals. But it's just interesting, the situation. And, you know, you can share your thoughts about it in the live chat box. You know, you want to share your reactions, opinions, and talk about other stuff, you can do so, or you can leave your comments down below. You know, if people show resistance here, well, clearly you've not understood the video. I'm making this video because I made a prediction in the past, I got it right, and I want to just talk about the theme in general of, should you trust people that actively are present on your channel but secretly show support elsewhere? And that place elsewhere is a group that attacks you. Are you okay with that? That's the ultimate question today. Yes, you can put differences aside if there's a greater reason or a greater cause. But whilst you do put those little issues, nagging things aside, they will eventually creep up, back up in the future. And how do you deal with it then? And how we've seen recently, yes, it was dealt with, but at the time of it happening, it was a chain reaction. That is the critical point. A chain reaction, how one falling out with one another can lead to multiple others having to go at one another for different reasons. So it shows it's been boiling up within, right? But those differences, disagreements, and possible grudges have been there for quite some time, never exactly ironed out in the past. And it's bubbled over since. And it could happen again and again. Same people or different ones. Now, yes, there might be some drama occurring elsewhere with what, Bella V. Do I say Bella? Isn't it Bell V? It's probably because with the E after the L, I say Bella, but then that would be an A. Just simple mistake there. Bell V, right? Whatever's gone on there. But that's a different complex, right? Different situation. The theme is, what we're looking at here is kind of like with Bob Farrell, Twin Mama, that community. And then even Fumblenuts coming along with his community, all merging as one because they all dislike Jim Terry, Mr. X, and supposedly even Salty Pancakes. So the creators, those three individuals, Bob Farrell, Twin Mama, Fumble, I've called them Fumble Nuts, interesting name, all dislike certain creators out there. So they're in sync with one another. But the audience members are not. And that might be where the problem lies, okay? We don't need to look at it too much, but like how people deal with drama between creators and then audience members and audience members, it can differ. Depending on what people have to lose, some people might go right at it back to back with one another, and others may be a bit more reserved and hold back a bit because they don't want to damage their own channel or drive people away from the channel, okay? So there's that to take in mind. The odd person recently may have commented saying how by allowing certain people on my channel, it leads to others being driven away. But at least from what I've seen statistically, I haven't really lost any subscribers. I always gain more than what I lose. That's just how it's been for that statistic. Like previously, when supposedly it was made up that I lost 20 subscribers, which was false information. Only I would know how many subscribers I've lost or gained because I'm in control of my own channel and YouTube studio. For people to go elsewhere on external websites to track and monitor channels' performances, it's false, incorrect, and very inaccurate. Social Blade is a useless, pathetic website. It does not accurately measure the statistics of one's channel. It's outdated, it's behind, and it's slow. But I guess for slow-minded, impetuous people that rely on it to then compare with other channels, well, there you go, it might suit well for them, okay? So, as for that type of stuff, you know, people being put off by others coming on in, it can happen. Some just reduce themselves to watching but not commenting or participating in the live chat, right? People negotiate. You know, for some it has actually worked out quite well. So people do have different choices and options, whether they fully decide to walk away or not. Obviously, I've come across some people that have walked away and they come back on their hands and knees, which seems to be a bit of a regular occurrence and pattern with some out there. There's been many individuals that have blasted me, called me out, criticised me, and even like when I was covering Dylan Round's case, and they've walked away, or they've been watching without commenting, and then going elsewhere and then talking about me. Those type of people, and many more that have bashed me, criticised me, not a single one of them, let's say at least 99% of all those people, none have ever apologized within that 99% bracket. And I know why. I know why most humans won't apologize to me just in general in life, is because they are the ones to fuck up and I don't. Simple as. Does that apply to every situation in life? No. But these examples, these themes, such as with the YouTube platform, they mess up, I don't. They have to apologize and take full accountability. They can't handle that. They don't want to, right? That resistance within. So the likely cause reaction is those people that return back on their hands and knees who should be apologizing don't. Instead, they just sound all happy and positive, like nothing ever happened. Now, in real life, I've seen those situations, some very severe ones. In the past, someone's done something to me, you know? And afterwards, it's like complete memory loss, memory wipe, nothing ever happened, no apologies, nothing. These are the humans I deal with in life, and it's also seen online. But in what order did I experience it in first? In real life first, and then online. I know people always like to play down the online factor, good and bad, and it's all about in real life. It doesn't matter. Wherever there are humans, actual humans interacting with one another, it does not matter if it's real or digital, it's still real communication with real humans. And it's interesting to measure, to look at and see how it is, right? So, with the lack of apologies here, it's different elsewhere. But I think that's more because it's give and take, right? When when some people mess up elsewhere, others respond back and mess up too. So it's more 50-50. That's why more people are likely to apologize to one another. Sometimes you've got to initiate the apology first before they do. There's a little element there of having to be the catalyst, right? Just because, you know, you can apologize and the other person apologize and you think, oh, that's all good, that's all nice. But you got to ask yourself, right? Why are they sorry? Why did they apologize? They apologized second because you apologized first. If you never apologized first, they would probably never apologize second, if not first, right? And that can apply to many other situations in life where you have to be the one to initiate this, to initiate that, to do this, to do that in the presence of someone, whatever it may be, an apology or something completely different, a request, whatever. And whilst people can say, yeah, but you're supposed to be in that position, you're supposed to be the one to initiate this and that, you take away that element, you take away of being the catalyst, because that's what you are. If you do it first, you are the catalyst, which then triggers a reaction from others, right? You take away your presence, are they going to step up or do anything? No. So it all falls back on you yourself. So just because someone's apologized to you doesn't mean that it's all positive and over and done with, right? They may only be apologizing. They're only maybe sorry for what they've done is because they've been caught out. Or in this situation, the only reason why they're sorry and apologizing is because you apologized first, right? So there's a bit of weird competitiveness going on there and the whole catalyst situation. I've analysed the catalyst situation for some time in the past, many different aspects in general, outside of this type of drama, right? Just general situations, being a catalyst, pros and cons, and it's more cons than pros, right? Anyway, the other thing, what I do want to highlight, and part of me is thinking, should we cover it first or do it later? Probably best do it later, right? Because we're going to look at comments from a different community, different topic of drama, which has caught me in it with the other individual, and how the last video that I made within the Kenny Veach case, Kenny Veach community missing person case, I made an observation which caught out Artari. Previously, Artari calling me out, okay? Painting a bad picture of me when it comes to the Kenny Veach case. And I just basically found stuff by their actions and posts which highlights them as a pure 100% hypocrite, which is very pathetic, okay? For what they originally said compared to how they acted in the future, a pure hypocrite. And I just want to look back at the comments by viewers. What do they think of the situation? What are their thoughts on that finding? So I need to acknowledge that too. I could save that for a separate video to do with Kenny Veach, but to be honest, I don't want to do a dedicated video about Kenny Veach or in the name of Kenny Veach, literally, and include that type of stuff because it just muddies the water and the community. So let's just combine it all together here in bulk. So that will be covered later on in the video, but we'll just cover the recent falling outs or the once falling outs. Resolved now, but it happened and we're reflecting back, right? Because it could light up again. Possibly I'm adjusting camera, it's just I don't know if it's exactly straight, the screen. Anyway, just one other thing I want to highlight. Down below, share your thoughts, your comments, if you agree or disagree with what I'm going to be talking about today. Share your thoughts. There will be a pinned link down below if you wish to check them out in relation to my channel. And top right corner of the screen, I symbol, you'll be able to find the last video that I made and uploaded. If you haven't already watched it, you want to catch up, the link will be available, okay? So, where do we start first? Well, I've got a couple of names, right, of people with the falling outs with one another, brief, short-term, long-term, from the past, whatever. But with it happening about 3 or 4 days ago on Twin Mama's channel, seemed to start off as normal. I just caught a glimpse of it, right? This is the thing. When shit goes down, when things happen, I seem to catch it. As for everything else, which isn't linked with Dylan Round's case or linked with my predictions, I end up not hearing about it or seeing it. So, right place, right time. Typical, but it is what it is. That's ref for you. Right place, right time. As for these things. So, 3 or 4 days ago, Twin Mammoth's channel, supposedly a normal stream, but you had Bratamus in the live chat, who's a mod on the channel. Also appears to be a mod elsewhere as well. I think maybe Bob Farrell's. And I think in the past, when it came to Buster being a mod for Bob Farrell's, there was the odd few misunderstandings of Buster having certain standards and a mindset and an attitude in which he did end up blocking people or something on Bob's chat in the past, and it led to falling outs, arguments, and it was resolved, but it was just, I guess, maybe unnecessary stuff, but it happened. And I think it was brought up once again by some people in the chat of this recent falling out, calling out Buster for blocking and silencing people, and Buster responding saying, where are they? I've not blocked anyone. Maybe not now, but maybe in the past, yes. But that's a different story there. But it all kicked off between Buster Bratamus and Smile Now, Cry Later. Okay? Smile Now, Cry Later, at the end of their username has emojis of those drama faces, happy and sad. Now, no one has been able to confirm or explain since me questioning, but a few months ago, well, quite a few months ago, there was another channel username called Watcher of Drama, and I think they had the drama emojis faces at the end of their username, and they provided the Dylan Rounds documentary, which was very good of them. I don't know who they are. At first, when I looked at the name quickly, I thought it was Smile Now, Cry Later, but I think it's two completely different people. But no one's been able to clarify or explain when I've asked that question. So if anyone can, feel free to explain somewhere in the chat or down below, okay? But at least with Smile Now, Cry Later, that was an individual that was present on my channel in the past for a certain length of time. Not a long time viewer, but they did show up and were hanging about. Smile Now, Cry Later developed a problem, an issue with me, and had enough of my channel, and at the time cancelled their membership on this channel. I think it was gifted to them in the first place, but they decided to cancel it. It happened around the time of when Buster Bratamus, I think at one point, just before that, had enough of me as well. So that's interesting. And possibly Grizzly as well, with another dog profile picture. I don't know what the pattern is with all these people having dogs as their profile pictures. Are they bitches? What gender is the dog? I'm not talking about them as a human. I'm talking about the dog in the profile pic. Is it a bitch or is it a male? I'm wondering, okay? But that aside, not too important, I guess. But actually, no, you could say that all these, well, not all, but a few of these people that have dog profile pictures, most of them are the dogs. They've got the mouths open, so it's like barking at the screen, which may represent their own personality, like dogged nature, doggedness. What the hell's going on? You know? Interesting. Said, apologies about the flow. I'm just trying not to cough too much. If you wonder why the pace or flow is a little bit subdued, slow, I just want to be able to control it. Hopefully people understand there. So, around the time of when Smile Now, Cry Later had enough of me, blasted me, criticised me for my coverage on the Dylan Rounds case, and Buster Bratamus also complaining, whinging, whining, bitching, moaning several times because it coincided with me responding back to Ty Corbyn when there was some information going about which was provided by Weezer at the time to do with Chase Venstra, and Ty Corbyn at the time said it's pure BS and it's wrong, and I just simply said to him, do some research elsewhere, you know, ask that person, Montello local, and see if you can develop an understanding, right? Because there's every chance that, yes, you may be within the area and you know more than others, but then there are some other people out there that have been on my channel that are from the same area as you or nearby. They will know stuff as well, whether it be the same information or additional information which you've not heard of. Why not do some research, which basically means reach out to that Montello local and see if you can develop an understanding or learn more. And because I told Ty Corbyn to go and do some research, Ty Corbyn went ballistic at that, got triggered. I think Grizzly got triggered as well around the time. Buster Bratamus definitely got triggered. And Smile Now, Cry Later got a bit triggered too. Now, let me also highlight that Smile Now, Cry Later, I think if I do try and think back, apologies if it's slightly out of order with one another. I think the last time Smile Now, Cry Later had a problem with me actually was, in fact, when I was responding back to Bob Farrell at the time of when I was defending myself. The very first time I defended myself against Bob Farrell, when Bob Farrell critiqued and questioned the credibility of WarLike Ref on the Dylan Bramz case. When I defended myself there, I think that was the breaking point for Smile Now, Cry Later, and the breaking point for Indiana 59, and maybe a few others too, okay? So basically, when WarLike Ref defended himself, viewers on my channel didn't like the fact that WarLike Ref was defending himself. What a pathetic mentality to have within some of those humans out there. Pathetic. And two-faced too. Hypocritical. Because for the people that walked away from my channel at the time of that with either Bob Farrell or Ty Corbyn, how I responded in mostly a formal way, people didn't like the idea of that, but all those people were perfectly fine when I was responding back to other creators and other people out there in which they themselves didn't like too. Yeah, it's pick and choose. Oh, I'm allowed to respond back to that person, but the moment I respond back to this other individual, people on my channel, audience members, don't agree and have had enough and walk away, and some come back and then complain again. It's very picking and choosing, right? Take in mind the reason why I go from that to this, to this, to that is because I was demonstrating balance, for and against, positives, negatives, okay? With the different people out there, such as within the Dylan Bramz case. And to be honest, with the Ty Corbyn situation, I wasn't defending myself there, not really. Nor was I really critiquing, nor was there any insults thrown about, but obviously there was enough thrown about by Ty Corbyn afterwards towards WarLike Ref. Name calling, silly words and stuff. That's when I defended myself after that point, but initially it was just a simple, hey, Ty Corbyn, just tell that person about what you know and see if they agree or if they can add on. But it didn't go down too well, and some of the audience members on my channel got triggered by it as well. So it is what it is, but you see the nature of how these people that are currently or more so, these sort of people that have recently had falling outs with one another were once present on my channel and in line with one another and in consensus with one another when I responded back to someone that they look up to, their master, their slave, their daddy, you know, whatever. So You see a form of solidarity within these people at moments, but then later on down the line, there are then enemies of one another, short or long term. So it really does switch and change. That's why people can't always keep up with everything. That's why some people are very behind on drama and conflict. And even when it comes through different waves or changes of attitudes or perceptions of people, kind of like my outlook on certain people out there, and then others that do come on in or return back to my channel and almost expect or demand a full dialogue and explanation of everything that's happened. No. Why should I? Look back, research, document, it's there, okay? By talking about it completely and fully, regurgitating it back up once again, whilst it might clarify it for you, everybody else has heard it, right? Bringing up certain points and examples here and there, yeah, that's fine. But the whole story all over again on certain stuff, If it's about a case, a mystery, different setting, right? That's a case, missing person, a mystery is arguably more important than most of this drama that goes on, right? But you can see where the majority of all these people and different communities, where their priorities lie. They could be interested in cases, but they're not dedicated to them. They're doing their own thing, right? Some that claim to care about a case, well, they don't, because where are they during the times of Dylan rounds? Not present. Fell off the wagon, gave up too soon, was never really there for Dylan to begin with, etc. It differs from person to person, okay? But the way it is nowadays, the situations, the standings with different people out there, you can kind of see who was there for Dylan Brown's case and who wasn't, right? And there might be more people not about Dylan than people who are about Dylan, right? Obviously, you can only cover the case or be present for so long, but I just sense that there could be a bulk, a fair amount of people out there that aren't quite there with it, with the Dylan Brown's case. Present, but may not be exactly there to talk about the case, right? But, you know, if people are still present, you still got volume, you still got discussions. I mean, what I've done as like a test or experiment is try and engage with questions. The people that the people that don't follow along with cases but are present, I might just ask the odd question. What do you think about the case? How do you think it's played out? And some people have engaged and responded with some answers, which is good. There's no harm in keeping some people on their tiptoes, right? You know, this is a certain method. If you come across some troublemakers, instead of telling them to F off or get lost, just say to him, hey, what do you think about this case? What do you think about what we're talking about right now? What do you think about this actual video which you're present in, which you're not actually engaging in or even focused or watching about? But let's ask you a question to see what you think about it. That type of engagement, because sometimes it can kick them out of the silliness or the disruption, let's say, right? You know, people with time have taken it the wrong way. Some people have thought that when I'm saying focus or focus, it means you're not allowed to have fun. Some people have taken it the wrong way. The reason why I say focus at times, sometimes in my videos or the chat, is because such an important critical point or question is coming up. An important critical finding within a video or analysis shows up, and I just simply want as many people to hear it and not be distracted at that moment in time, because if it can lead to further discussions and a breakthrough, it would be good if as many people were at least listening at that moment in time to take it in. because you revert back, different situation, but you revert back to those people that come in and say, what's the latest, what's happened, not been here, can you tell me everything, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, if you were present at the time and actually listening, we wouldn't be in this situation, right? Active listening at times, even if it is selective, when you know, those important moments when it counts, people can be present in that moment. It can be good. I mean, the equivalent would be when funny videos have been created, certain characters, certain people, names, impressions, or response videos, light-hearted ones. The right people have shown up at the right time for that video, or someone's joined late, like Betty Hayward. Betty Hayward joining in late, watch her crazy, popping on in, right at that moment where I suddenly start doing that light-hearted response to them, or about them, or an impression linked to them, right? Or something completely different. Some people join in at random moments where a sound's made, a noise, or the discussions have changed to something completely different, and it's like, whoa, it's kind of almost perfect timing. Okay, missed out the previous stuff, but present in the moment when it's most important and when it counts, right? If you're there and you're somewhat focused and alert, you'll take it in more, you'll appreciate it more, you'll find it more funny. If you're slightly distracted by whatever else is going on in the background or in the chat, right, that moment can be ruined. So a serious situation or a light-hearted one, how you absorb it and react can differ from whether you're focused or not, okay? So that's why asking questions in the chat can increase that engagement and bring back that focus, okay? So just wanted to add that in, but let's just refer back to this whole situation in recent time. So I've given you a bit of a backstory with Buster, Smile Now, Cry Later, individuals that have been present on my channel in the past when it came to the Dylan Bramz case. Individuals that kind of had enough of my channel, walked away at the time of when I started doing my response videos to Bob Farrell. And that's because Buster Bratamus, Smile Now, Cry Later are supporters of Bob Farrell. Indiana 59, a supporter of, well, yeah, kind of a supporter in a way. I don't know what other term you could use. A friend, gets on well, whatever, with a different channel. So if I'm aiming in that direction of who they support, well, they're going to step up in defending that person's name and less likely to defend me, which is normal, okay? Those sort of people did not originate on my channel to begin with. They came from elsewhere. They supported other channels before they came across mine. So it's not expected, nor would it ever be, for them to select this side or to understand my responses and how I defend myself against the people that they like. Just in general, right? In a general situation, if you've got a friend or a family member that's critiqued, criticized, insulted, and even if you hate or dislike that family member or friend, here and there, you know, there's a chance that you might end up stepping up and defending them because you are close to them, such as like by blood, right? When some other random person out there starts critiquing, calling out, you probably step up and defend them, even if you don't always get on well. So it is a previous time of connecting with someone, right, for a length of time, you're going to probably defend them more than you will others. So that's normal, okay? But at the time recently, where these type of individuals like Buster Bratamus, Smile Now, Cry Later, not seeing eye to eye on things recently, but still supporting Bob Twin Mama's channel at the time of when it happened, interesting situations, right? It's like, agree on this together, but disagree on that. But both in consensus to supporting this, but one of them doesn't agree with that person supporting the same thing because they've got their own things in the background. All these little elements, right? It might not be of interest to some people out there, but I kind of find it interesting. All these like little gears, mechanics, right? Which can be causing the tension and the friction and the gears grinding and coming to a bit of a halt at times, which then can derail conversations and discussions, right? I know my channel is seen as true crime followed by mystery, but I do a range of stuff, okay? But I guess though, when the channel grew, and what it's known as, mysteries cases. So a case channel with the conversations and discussions most of the time being about talking about the case and questioning it. With other channels out there that do live streams that were once a part of a case, or supposedly were, then broke away from it and broke away from certain communities, masters, slaves, breaking away from it all. They're not focused on true crime. They're not focused on mysteries. It's just hangouts. So, not that it's a critique, it's just a valid observation, okay? So for a lot of these channels out there that have either been controlled by others and they've been vulnerable themselves, or they've just simply been audience members and then branched out to turning into a creator, natural organic growth or boosted by the help of others at a point in time. Bob Farrell, Twin Mama are examples of having a helping hand. Not in a manipulative way like that, but with the presence of Jim Terry and the backing there originally. It gave them a boost upwards. And it's been maintained since, because through those falling outs, other audiences and fans have followed in the same direction as these creators, hence why the numbers have been retained and still remain, right? So they've managed to keep above float. But in terms of the themes and what's being talked about, it's not dedicated to true crime. It's not dedicated to mysteries or missing people cases. There might be some little discussions here and there, whether it's true or not, whether it's BS or rumors or talk or just casual conversations. But these type of channels, Bob Farrell, Twin Mama, even the person called BJ, even others out there you could think of, they're not about or truly about true crime or missing people cases. They're doing their own thing, doing their own content, talking about their own things, and also responding back to ongoing drama. So these live streams and live panels are more of a hangout zone. Let's all get together, let's talk about a range of different stuff and have fun, or at least try to, okay? It's just interesting once again how before and after, where they once were, they were a part or involved in a case such as Dylan Rounds, but have detached away since. I'm just trying to think. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? Correct me if I'm wrong. But wasn't there a time recently where, I don't know if it was Jim Coddington, Jim Coddington with the pink profile picture. I'm not sure if it was him or maybe somebody else that sometimes, well, yeah, they sent a message in the live chat on my channel with the same message reading, Bob Farrell never cared about the Dylan Bramz case or has given up on it. Was that by Jim Coddington or another Jim? I said, correct me if I'm wrong. It's only because recently I saw that Jim Coddington showed support to Bob Farrell via a super chat, and it's just interesting seeing the shift. Is that like a form of positive support? But then why would this, well, not exactly saying they, but it's the first person, at least for the name, that comes to my head. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just remember in general, in recent time, a person that has viewed my channels have put in the comments saying Bob Farrell has given up on the Dylan Bramz case, doesn't care about it. And that's been on repeat a few times in the chat. And if it is the same person, then they've shown support to Bob Farrell weeks, months later. Weird. See, it might just be because my mentality is completely different to most people out there. Because in one way or another, right, the one is dead to you mentality. You know, when people say you're dead to me, well, that can be used in some way for me, right? Does it involve not talking about someone anymore? And that's an example of when someone is dead to you. Yes. But another example where you can make references to somebody because you have to, it's linked to something, but the emotional side, the connection is not there. That can be a form in its own right of one is dead to you, okay? What I'm getting at is some people are more strict than others. Some kiss make up, the odd one doesn't, and is much more firm. I've come across some dickheads with time, and in my mindset, they remain a dickhead, and that's it, game over, okay? It's most efficient that. I have, not through experimentation, but when looking back in an experimental way with the observations made, I have come into situations and moments where at times one has apologized, whether it was needed or not. But the aspect of something has happened, you return back, you apologize, but then you're actually more worse off now than if you didn't apologize. That making that apology makes you weaker or more prone to something being thrown back in your face in some way. Basically, the times of where one may have been advised to apologize or told by somebody else, or you kind of went back and forth in your own mindset of should you apologize or not, and when you finally did with a situation with someone, whatever, in the past, it just backfired and it wasn't worth one's time in apologizing. Was that 100% of the time? Well, outside of connections, yeah, it was interesting, right? So sometimes being more strict can be useful. And this is not a whole relating thing where everybody relates and gets together and say, yeah, I'm on the same side as you. No. These are individual, personal, unique encounters and experiences and adaptations. I've got mine, you've got yours, that's it. I have seen those patterns and ways with time in the past where people like to do the whole relating and connecting with one another. When I have come across those type of people, 9 times out of 10, they were fake fucks, okay? Liars, hypocrites, can't be bothered with them, game over, okay? There'll be certain names out there of people you may remember or think of involved in Dylan rounds who are no longer present. That become for a number of reasons. Have given up on the case, have had enough of it, or they've had enough of this channel, right? Or they've shown their true colours, so they've been dealt with in an appropriate way, right? With other channels out there, they wouldn't be as strict. So certain people out there that have caused some trouble, patterns of behaviour repeat on itself on that channel in the future, which causes more problems because they weren't dealt with at the time, right? There's been a few exceptions where some people have acted out like dickheads on my channel, prats, right? There's been some prats on my channel. There's been some people on my channel in which I made a response to and I put time and effort into responding and clearly outlining and explaining the situation. They couldn't be bothered to watch it. They claimed that they already knew what the video was about and what was being talked about. Completely incorrect, invalid their point because they had to watch, right? Because what was being talked about was not what they were thinking, right? But they didn't bother watching. So lazy bastards like that, and just kind of not odd in weird, but just kind of odd behavior and mentalities to have. There's been some exceptions where those type of people have come back on their hands and knees and been present since, and no apologies, not to be really expected because it's just those type of people, as I said. But the same problems haven't happened again since, and that's without any form of punishment or consequences, which is kind of interesting. Maybe they've finally seen the light, maybe, you know, something's kicked in within, or they're just feeling, do you know what, I don't want a repeat of this, so I'm just gonna stay out of that. But I don't think not everyone has the same level of self-control. And when it comes to the twin mama situation in recent time, even if it's been resolved since, that lack of self-control is what led to that small scale or short-term implosion of what I predicted over 1 year ago, and in which at the time of those falling outs and chain reactions, what it has led to is showing weakness within, showing that the structural integrity, that the foundations do have cracks within, and those long-term falling outs, disagreements and grudges from the past, whether it be within different communities or external ones back to back that have now branded together, it's finally shown and heated up, boiled over. Because there were some people in recent time that were saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't talk about this, or maybe we shouldn't fall out over that, because then the others out there will have content to talk about. Would that be an example of what's happening here? Content to talk about. You know, in other situations, people would say yes. But considering I said that this would happen 1 year ago before it even happened, you know, I have every right to make my observations about this because I predicted it would happen 1 year ago before it even happened when they lost control. So, just clapping because once again, I was right. It's interesting. What can people take away from my predictions? You want to unfuck yourself, okay? You want to break a certain cycle, prevent stuff for the future. Sometimes focus. Listen in. Remember when I said about when the timing is right, making the most of that moment, listening in and focusing, as there's been prompts in the past in the chat and stuff, times where it's most important to listen and take notes. Well, you wouldn't be in the same situations over and over again if you listened originally. So that's why, for those that are currently here going through problems and issues or repeated ones, welcome. Feel free to look, listen and learn and maybe adapt in time in the future. It could help you. And for the section B of people that have already adapted through these videos or by themselves in different ways, you can reflect back on what you have avoided, right? Which would be seen as a positive. So positives can come out of this video, right? But the catalyst, how things broke apart. Let me tell you something. I'm just being conscious of time. 1 hour in, I'm probably going to leave out the talk about the external drama elsewhere with the likes of the Kenny Veach case, Atari. It's only because of the time. Once it gets past a certain time on the marker, it does make it harder to upload because of the file size. YouTube doesn't like certain long videos, so I've got to be careful of the timer. Apologies about that. But I just want things to be somewhat efficient, okay? But yeah. The catalyst to the implosion was Buster Bratamus, who's a mod on Twin Mama's channel, and Smile Now, Cry Later, who I guess is a member, or if there's no membership, some kind of supporter in some way on Twin Mama's channel, right? But Buster Bratamus at the time didn't quite agree with Smile Now, Cry Later's behaviour and activity. And this is where it all started to kick off. Buster Bratamus, whether he was present elsewhere or heard from others to know about it, is that Smile Now, Cry Later does participate elsewhere on Jim Terry's community. I think more specifically, the website. And when it comes to the website, which is called OTT platform, $29.99 per month. Round it up, paying $30 per month to have access to the Jim Terry content, live streams, videos, shows, and all of that stuff. Smile Now, Cry Later supports that and pays for it. Twin Mama, Bob Farrell, that whole community and alliance together, who have formed through departing and walking away from Jim Terry because they were attacked by Jim Terry in some way or another and had the falling outs and wanted no more of that dark force, who have amassed new audience members since, or brought back some at least, all in one place. And yet you have certain audience members that are still supporting those channels out there that attacked you. That's why Buster Bratamus, when he heard about it, and I think Smile Now, Cry Later left a comment in the chat at the time saying, can you Twin Mama let the other people know about why, or that I'm just simply supporting Jim Terry's platform and paying per month the membership fee to have access to all that content. I'm still a member there, I'm still supporting Jim Terry, but I'm still here supporting Twin Mama as well. Twin Mama was fine with that and understood Smile Now, Cry Later, and so did a few others. But then other audience members, including Buster Bratamus, didn't agree with it at the time. And I guess, in a way, Buster still doesn't agree with it right now with his recent comments made elsewhere on like Bob Farrell's channel, okay? So that's why it's still boiling over since. So it's still valid to talk about right now. Within this, I just want to give you my thoughts and compare from Buster Bratamus' understanding, right? Does Buster Bratamus comes off as a strict, supportive individual of an individual channel out there in a way? Kind of. Does Buster Bratamus follow the rules and regulations very tightly? Maybe. Or they have their own set, which is more strict than others. Okay. Does he want to provide, or she wants to provide more integrity behind it than others? Maybe. Now, I'd say Buster Bratamus is a bit reckless elsewhere on other channels, such as mine. Made a prat of themselves, very impetuous, very egocentric, did not listen to my coverage, did not take the notes in. Buster Bratamus, all he could do, or all they could do, was whinge and whine and complain when I was trying to cover the Dylan Rounds case. Buster Bratamus provided zero contribution to the Dylan Rounds case. As for at least speaking on my channel, my community, Buster Bratamus appeared as a waste of time and a waste of breath when it came to my channel, because all they contributed was complaining, whining, bashing, having a go, and that was it. So even if Buster Bratamus wants to sit himself on a pedestal of some form of integrity, some form of law and order, okay? Rethink yourself first there at least, because how you've presented yourself elsewhere, Buster Bratamus, was a complete mess, and it was pathetic, okay? Buster Bratamus, your attitude, your behavior, documented, noticed in the past, at least on my channel, was an embarrassment, okay? I'm sure Dylan Rounds would be disappointed in you, Buster Bratamus, as well, right? I know some people with time have said that Dylan Rounds would be so appreciative of my coverage on the case. I don't think like that, because Dylan isn't here to say this or that exactly on me. But I think one thing Dylan Rounds would be deeply disappointed in would be all the unnecessary conflict and responses by people who have been trying to derail, purposely in a way, the forms of contribution in terms of covering a case or trying to solve or make sense of it. Dylan Rounds, I'm sure, would approve in general of people making some kind of effort in trying to find him, or at least keep his name alive, and for the right reasons in general, not just my channel. I think it can apply to others out there more so than mine. But as said, I'm sure Dylan wouldn't be too pleased with all the drama and conflict that's gone on since. So it won't be just, you know, in one way of looking at it, it won't be just Dylan Rounds who's disappointed in Buster Bratamus, but also maybe some others like Smile Now, Cry Later, in terms of Smile Now, Cry Later comes across as a caring, nice, positive individual who might be fragile as well in different ways, and other people have highlighted that, yet when I came across Smile Now, Cry Later, well, they just complained, whinged, whined, had a go at me, criticised me for covering the case. So I wouldn't say they're exactly a nice individual, and that they do have a bit of a tone of voice on them and a bit of a sharpness of tongue at times. So, you know, once again, WarLike Wrath reveals the dark side of humans out there. For some reason, WarLike Wrath is the catalyst in which they can see the darkness in others and experience it firsthand, receiving end of it. It makes me think the Devil's Daughter, who they refer to as Indiana 59, the Devil's Daughter. I guess when I came face to face with the devil in real life at the age of being a child in the woods back in the past, documented, talked about in the past on my channel. Maybe seen that devil, and even the devil backed off from me. Even the devil walked away. It didn't stand, it cowered into the darkness. So maybe the devil within is what is triggering all these people around me. And that's why they bring out their own darkness, because the devil is staring them right in the eyes. There's different ways of looking at it, of course. I'm sure just observing, her hands are shaking, she's about to splash all kinds of water on me. Whoa, please not. I don't want to drown. But being a bit more serious and focused right now, just interesting, right? All these implications and changes and shifts in behavior. Bloody hell, it's like a full-on boot camp, you know? You want to be a psychologist, or you're interested in that? Well, maybe these communities are for you, right? But yeah, Buster Bratamus calling out Smile Now, Cry Later in recent time for supporting Jim Terry's channel. Buster Bratamus doesn't support Jim Terry, or no longer supports Jim Terry. But Buster Bratamus, who supports and friends with Ty Corbin at one point supported Jim Terry. So just because you don't support the channel now doesn't make you any of a better person than the other you're calling out. So, okay, if Smile Now, Cry Later is labelled as a traitor and not to be trusted, you know, previously, okay, I can understand that. If you're simply in a situation where you support a channel individually and no one else, and you've not made the mistake of supporting anyone else, you know, the wrong people, and you've stuck with one, if then someone comes on in, or someone who's already present, you then find out about that they are actually doing double work, double business elsewhere with a rival, which has been known to cause disruption to this community, which you look up to and support. I can understand that defensive, territorial nature of behavior and how you may treat or feel about that person being present, right? So in the shoes of Buster Bratamus, right, or in the shoes of someone like Buster Bratamus, and you find out or hear that someone like Smile Now, Cry Later is doing stuff elsewhere and supporting other channels out there which have been known to attack this one right here. I'm not talking about mine, I'm talking in third person, such as Twin Mama or Bob Farrell. Something like that, it can sit a bit unwell with that individual, that solid supporter who then sees that individual supporting elsewhere as a traitor and not to be trusted. And Buster Bratamus at the time was labelling Smile Now, Cry Later as a spy, not to be trusted, snake in the grass, etc. It didn't set well with some other viewers too, and the rest were in support of Smile Now, Cry Later. Now, I guess the key thing you can acknowledge, some of the audience members and Twin Mama who don't have any problems with Smile Now, Cry Later and praise her, despite Smile Now supporting the darkness over there, I think that's simply because the likes of Twin Mama and other audience members and others understand Smile Now is because they themselves were once in the darkness themselves. So they may see themselves as no better. So why are we here to judge what someone does or where someone goes? Because we once made the mistake in the past, right? It's kind of like how some people out there say to others, you know what? I've been there, done that. I've worn the badge or I've worn the shirt, been on the receiving end of it. You will end up the same way. And that person responds back saying, no, this is different. I'm not going to end up the same way as you. The other person responds back saying, well, we'll see with time. And when it finally does happen and the person comes crawling back and it's like, well, I told you so, but you know, you had to experience it yourself in your own time to learn and move forwards. People, it takes time for people. It differs from person to person. So that's why there can be an understanding there. So for Twin Mama to understand and support Smile Now, Cry Later, despite where Smile Now, Cry Later is hanging out at Jim Terry's place, well, it's because Twin Mama was the apprentice when it came to Jim Terry. Twin Mama was the next big thing, the next big project in the eyes of Jim Terry, and got that little boosted push behind, and so did others too, like Bob Farrell. So they've been there, they've done that, and they've been on the receiving end. So they may feel and have a form of care and support towards Smile Now, Cry Later, because Smile Now could get chewed up and spat out in the future and hurt or harmed by the presence of Jim Terry or the audience members over there with time, just simply based on the patterns and trends of how others have with time. Betty Hayward, Guidance, Miss T, same person. I guess Watcher Crazy, a few others, Twin Mama, Bob Farrell, an endless pattern, Johnny Yarborough, where they've all been in the presence in some way or another of Jim Terry. It's backfired down the line eventually, and then they've parted ways. And then the waves of others followed after in their own time. So if you've been there, you've done that, you've experienced it, you're probably more likely to be understanding of someone. So like, that's why people were understanding of Smile Now, Cry Later. But specifically Buster Bratamus at the time, it didn't sit well with him or her, and they didn't like the idea that it felt like there was a spy within. If they're here watching and listening, chatting and joking, having a good time and listening on in, whatever the gossip or talk is about, they can then reiterate that elsewhere at Jim Terry's. Did that happen? I'm not quite sure. Can it happen? Most definitely. And that can be any situation with anyone. I've been on the receiving end of it. So that's why I can understand in that small space of time why Buster Bratamus would be very cautious and wary upon hearing of the activity of another individual elsewhere. What are they going to do? What are they going to do next? Are they going to say anything? Are they going to talk behind your back? You may not know because it's behind a gated community and on a different platform and site, so it might be harder to know. And with that possible uncertainty and not knowing, it could lead to some people getting a bit too cautious, irrational thinking, overthinking, who knows? And maybe that's what Buster Bratamus was going through at the time, thinking, you know what? Do we need any more drama? Do we need any more mess? Do we want any spies or lurkers that will listen on in and then pass all the information on to the others, and then that'll fuel more drama? How can we reduce it? How can we reduce this conflict and this mess? Well, first of all, let's do a clean out of all these fake supporters who are currently here that claim to support this channel, but at the same time they're supporting the darkness that has been responsible for attacking this community here. And this viewer or supporter is in the middle of it all, supporting both sides. How's that helpful? You know, when push comes to shove and someone is really hurt or damaged, are you going to choose a side? Are you going to step up and help that person and support them in their time of need? Or are you just going to hang around in the middle on the fence? I think that's the mindset of Buster Bratamus at the time. I can kind of get that. I'm just going to quickly turn on the light because I think it's getting a little bit dark, okay? Just give me a second. As said, I've been on the receiving end of if you want to call it spies and informants that may have been present listening on in and then passed it on afterwards elsewhere, and so on and so on. Maybe smaller scale, but it went through and it happened and I saw it with my own eyes. So if Buster Bratamus has experienced things similar before with others and communities, maybe he doesn't want a repeat of that. So that's why he was more strict and supposedly appeared on a pedestal of having better morals than others. You know, I'm the consistent one. I'm the true supporter. This person isn't a true supporter, even if they claim to be, because they're doing stuff elsewhere in the background, off the knowledge, off the unawareness of others, or something like that. Okay. But I think at the end of the day, from my experience with Buster Bratamus, how he's appeared, has Buster been present on Jim Terry's community? I don't know to what extent. It's just that I'm aware that at the time of when Bob Farrell was doing his live streams and was in association with Jim Terry, Mr. X, Buster Bratamus was there, and with Ty Corbin, and it was all positive. They were all laughing and joking with one another. Yeah, and then with Buster, then how he appeared on my channel, a complete idiot at the time, Buster Bitchamus, that's what I'd call him, an impetuous, egocentric individual, how they responded and failed to listen to my videos and my responses to stuff, which was critical at the time. Just not much to take from that individual. Can't really take them serious, especially with a dog profile picture as well. They're just barking up the wrong tree, okay? So, for someone like Buster Bratamus, with their long-standing history of certain behaviour of just impetuism, and who they once supported and got on well with, such as the Jim Terry presence, even if it was through Bob Farrell's channel. No disagreements back then. Not as much protesting back then, but all of a sudden now Buster Bratamus is protesting, saying it's not right, but that person over there is supporting this person. But weren't you in the past in some way or another, directly or indirectly, you were kind of supporting it? So what makes you a better person when you've been there, you've done that? At least Twin Mama and a few of those people shown understanding towards Smile Now, Cry Later. Why didn't you? Now, as said, fast forward on, I guess Buster dialed it back. But with those recent comments on Bob's, doesn't quite sit well. Those out there supporting Jim Terry and yet still here watching this channel like nothing's wrong. So it still doesn't sit well with Buster. But I wouldn't say Buster Bratamus is an angel either. So, you know, you can be critiquing and calling out others for that lack of loyalty and trust, but I think you yourself lacks a form of loyalty and trust and a form of control. If you have gone OTT, not the platform, but in behaviour of being a mod, did power get to one's head? Maybe. Maybe that's why Buster got very whingy and whiny, is because he was lacking that power and lacking that control on my channel because he wasn't allowed to be a mod. Maybe. Because I can imagine, for whatever reason, if Buster Bratamus was appointed a mod here, I can imagine half the chat would be completely void, blocked and destroyed. I think it would just cause a lot of problems, because if Buster has a certain approach and mentality and is very strict when it suits them, well, they're going to be a certain way. But then other times it can be very reckless. So I just don't think you can take the individual serious enough. Can I take Smile Now, Cry Later serious enough? I'm just a bit, you know, uneven with Smile Now, Cry Later, because I've seen good and bad. I've seen positive, I've seen negative from them. I've seen in between. Now, it's either one or the other. And when it's like that, one extreme to another, I'm thinking, what's going on there? There's a bit of inconsistencies, not enough balance, right? So I can understand the cautiousness, right, in general. This is where I tie it in with my examples. I'll mention the other disagreements with some other people, other stuff, shortly, but if you're not Buster Bratamus, because you've got more control and maybe some form of better standards, but you're in a similar situation as to where wherever you're present, whether you're a creator or an audience member, and you see others present and they present themselves in a supportive way, or state that they are supportive, or that they are loyal, or that they do care, or even just presenting themselves in a positive light and image with their positive messages and just simply joking about and having fun. If you're in a position like that, and then you then find out later that they are elsewhere too, but not as positive about you, well, that is kind of a snake in the grass. That is problematic. Now, maybe I've seen the full circle compared to others. So am I jumping the gun? Am I hopping too far ahead? Maybe, with this example of Smile Now, Cry Later. Maybe it never got to that point where Smile Now, Cry Later did anything or said anything bad about the Twin Mama or Bob Farrell community and the audience members there. It never got to that point. Could it have? Well, there's a very small chance that it could have. You never know. Unexpected things can happen. It comes back down to that what if. So maybe Buster Bratamus got ahead of himself at the time, right? Made a bit of a mistake there, possibly. That Smile Now, Cry Later is harmless and means no harm. They just have different preferences compared to everybody else, and they want to support what they support and not feel that they have to be controlled in where they go and where they don't. But for someone like Buster, overcautious, wanted to prevent further things from escalating, seeing early warning signs, red flags in their mindset. Yeah, okay. And linking back to myself on a personal scale, there's been the odd few individuals, okay, on my channel that have been present and have moved away with time. Long-time viewers, kind of, and they've moved on. Their reasons for leaving, or supposedly leaving, may have not always made total sense. Some have not had a reason. They've done their own thing. But have they been back since? Not from what I'm aware of, but on the basis situation that if they did return back, I'd probably be just a little bit cautious. And I think just like how everyone has a right to defend themselves against the negative incoming force of a negative individual or action, if you're allowed to defend yourself there, you should have every right to just feel a level of instinct and a level of cautiousness with an oncoming presence of someone or some people, right? Does that mean you treat them differently compared to others? Maybe. But if there's no nastiness involved, then it shouldn't fucking matter, right? But some people still get triggered by it, and it's quite pathetic. What I'm getting at is examples of people that were once present on my channel and no longer, or not as frequent, let's say. Examples would be Mama Down Under, Louise Haraway, Linda Cushing, and Indiana 59, and maybe even Tom Evans. And there could be a few others as well. These type of individuals that were once present on this channel and active, but then they started to engage elsewhere on other communities like Bob Farrell, Jim Terry. And I think there's a chance that maybe some of those names, not all, but some of those names, their perceptions, their understandings and behaviour shifted and changed for the worse, and their attitudes became a bit more negative. Their outlook on WarLike Raf, or at least the Dylan Brown's case, changed. Negatively influenced by others out there, but they made the choice to be in the presence of those communities at the time. Have I seen those individuals since? Here, not really. I think Louise Haraway may have left questions here and there which either didn't make sense or were a bit behind on certain discussions and cases, and it's like, right, so you haven't been here for the Dylan Brown's case, you've been doing other stuff. Unfortunate. But the research is here, you feel free to catch up on it when you can. But my outlook on those type of people, and many of us out there, If they return back, what happens? No nastiness, not needed, not necessary. No name calling to that extent, unless one's defending themselves in different circumstances. But from the get-go, it's just, with the return, okay, where have you been since? It doesn't really matter. But what does matter is one's self with the instinct of sensing something could be wrong, or sensing that because of where people have gone, how they return back could be different now. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to be careful with what I say, with the full understanding that some of these people, maybe like Louise Haraway, Indiana 59, some of those people weren't present on my channel to begin with. They were elsewhere. So I don't expect too much. Does that make sense? You know, they have their own preferences. That's fine and that's normal. But if I'm in a situation where I find out that there are people here who are also present elsewhere in dark ways, and I mean dark ways, I'm just going to be a little bit more cautious in what I say or how I respond back to people. Because I would be thinking or feeling, you know what? If I say certain stuff or do certain things, that might be relayed on elsewhere, onto the opposition. Do I want that for myself? Could it cause more problems? It could. And there's a small case study, Indiana 59, clearly demonstrated it. Indiana 59, a typical UK person. So here's the thing, I might be English, I might be from the UK, but I'm a lot different compared to most UK people, okay? So just to put into perspective, for most of the people out there that come from other countries, whether it be the US, Australia, Germany, India, Morocco, wherever, when it comes to me, even though I'm from the UK, I'm significantly different compared to the majority of this UK population, okay? For numerous reasons, all under control, okay? But when dealing with typical UK people, I know that can be a bit problematic, and I think that was a case study with Indiana 59 in terms of their personality and behaviour, okay? Non-stop complaining, non-stop critiques, non-stop insults, non-stop passive-aggressive nature. And then later, with their discussions or their responses to me and vice versa, they then reiterated that elsewhere on Bob Farrell's community, in the comments, in the live chat, joking about WarLike Raf, critiquing WarLike Raf, insulting WarLike Raf, and relaying anything that went wrong or happened, good or bad, more bad, from WarLike Raf's page onto other pages. That gossip, you know, that typical gossiping and that talk when it's kind of unnecessary, but it's relentless. And it was all driven simply by me responding back to Bob Farrell when I defended myself. So that's why you can kind of understand the timing of it all, whether it be Buster Bratamus, Smile Now, Cry Later, Indiana 59, and a few others, where at a time like that when I responded back to Bob, those type of people who were also viewers on my channel had enough of me. They went their own ways, and some, like Indiana 59, remained and stuck around. But to have that knowing thought or feeling that Indiana 59, whilst being passive, aggressive and toxic here on his community and in all the post, the only time when they were neutral was with the Kenny Veach discussions and case. But in the presence of that, knowing what they can be like elsewhere on other communities, talking behind my back, regardless of all the do-gooders here, right? Because there might be do-gooders and more positive people than me and see the best in people more than me on this channel, which is good. But let's cut the bullshit and be realistic. knowing firsthand that there is an individual that is talking behind your back in negative ways and also being toxic on your page in a passive aggressive way non-stop, and then for them to turn it all up and act all positive all of a sudden on the same channel but in a different topic themed video of a different case. That concept feels like pure, like a pure disease. Knowing that there is a presence of darkness, they show good and bad, but it's one extreme to the other. To know that there's someone like that present on your channel, it's like having a tumor within. You need to rid yourself of that because it's just not healthy. Does that make sense? So in the eyes of Buster Bratamus, their outlook on Smile Now, Cry Later, they're probably seeing Smile Now as a tumor. Latching on, it creates a bit of a negative, toxic environment. As for the thoughts and feelings of what could happen and how it could escalate based off the fact that this individual is supporting a dark force out there, what are they saying behind closed doors? What if? Right? Has it happened yet? Don't know. Has it been proven yet? Probably not. Buster Bratamus, is he jumping the gun, getting ahead of himself? Should he think before he speaks? Maybe. Is that why the likes of Twin Mama and audience members are actually a bit more supportive and understanding of Smile Now compared to Buster? Maybe. But at least from my outlook of what I've gone through, like with Indiana 59, once acted positive on my channel, then through Disagreements turned toxic, and then started talking behind my back all of a sudden. It does make you question, but you might see repeats of that elsewhere. Now, take this into mind, Buster, and other people that think in line, and, you know, maybe it can be reiterated later. If Buster Bratamus doesn't like the idea of people being on Bob Farrell's or Twin Mama's channel community, Buster Bratamus not liking audience members that claim to support Twin Mama Bob Farrell whilst supporting Jim Terry in different ways over there, well, just remember, Buster, Indiana 59 is in your community. Indiana 59, in one way or another, showed a form of likeliness, getting on well with Jim Terry in the past. Does it apply now? Probably not, because of the paywall and OTT platform. But as for Rumble, you know, they could be secretly watching there. What I'm saying is, depending how cautious you really want to be and how strict you really want to be, you claim to be that caliber, well, be strict. People that were once or lurking still on my channel, such as some named individuals I mentioned, finding out that they were in connection with the dark force out there and how some of them may have been referencing me in negative ways. It's just a cancer that needs to be acknowledged. And it seems like the cancer now has spread and has collected at the New Alliance. What I can say in general, and there will always be some lurkers in the background for sure, but I feel that this channel, in terms of pre-existing stuff, not highlighting what could happen next, I'm talking about right now and back then, everything that's happened with time and the people that have come along. I don't know if people will agree. I think about it to an extent. It feels like here it's cancer free, okay? The cancer has gone, or most of it has, but it's all collected in a completely different community. And that's where Buster Bratamus is at. So Buster Bratamus, whilst you witch hunting Smile Now, Cry Later, think that's the least of your worries, Buster Bratamus. I mean, you should be cautious of all the others. Yeah? You know, if you claim to be strict and you want to follow the rules, you want to be loyal to someone, well, don't just do a witch hunt and smile now, cry later. Open your mindset to the other possible cancer and darkness out there that's within, right? If you're not strict and you're a bit more loose and you're a bit more understanding, then you don't have to. But, you know, if you're going to go all in on one person for a certain action or form of support, just remember that there are other people present too. Why not name and shame them if that's your method and style? These are just pointers, okay, that I'm highlighting, right? I can understand why Buster Bratamus is a bit wary and cautious. I've been there, I've done that, where I've been on the receiving end of people that have claimed to be supporters here, and then they've gone behind my back elsewhere. And I said, there's no problem with people going from channel to channel, watching and watching, but when that backstabbing in the background comes on in, just seems a bit unnecessary. If it happened in which a person was watching when elsewhere, spoke behind your back, backstabbed you, but then came back to your channel and said, you know what, I've had enough of you, I've spoken about you elsewhere and critiqued you, I can't be bothered with you, I'm going to carry on critiquing, but I'm not going to have any more part here in this community, I'm done, I'm going, never coming back. And if that's how it ended, that'll be like, fine, that's understandable. But I detest the idea of humans in general in life who act a certain way, then show the dark side, and then return back like nothing ever happened. And especially those that repeat it. Good or bad, okay, people can have little blips and mistakes and moments, but a certain level of darkness, a certain level of cancer where you can sense, you can feel it, you feel like you need a wash, right? You need to be cleansed. Because, to be honest, I'm thinking more long term. If I've got a cancer within here or present, right, and they act a certain way and it's changed, and backstabbing, hypocrite, two-faced twat, you know, that type of stuff, and then you move on to a different case, you move on to a different community, and they follow, what are they going to do in the future? You know, the what ifs. You want to protect your channel, you want to protect a case, you know, you might have to defend yourself or at least defend the community. I mean, linking back to that territorial defensive nature of Salty Pancakes with the Dylan Browns case, I could understand it in terms of the location geographically. He's closer to the case than most other people are. He's been on boots on ground when other people haven't. I can understand that defensive nature of a case, a bit protective because you feel like you're tied with it. But just understand there are other people there to cover it as well for the right reasons, okay? And I think that was neglected there. But in a situation where you're defending yourself or defending a community or defending a case because you sense or feel that there is a presence of darkness or an oncoming force of what could happen in the future, and appropriately you manage to deter that or push it away, that'll be for the right reasons, and that's understandable, right? I mean, it is unfortunate, the situation, I guess, with I don't know if it still is ongoing, at the time at least, Alex Easterling, another completely different missing person case, criminal investigation type 1. I don't know if you'd exactly say it's true crime or true crime or not. Missing person with the criminal involvement, if you would call it that. Kaylee covering it, but then Salty Pancakes tags along, and then that darkness overshadows her and tries to cause disruption, right? So I can understand that as well, that defensiveness, protecting a case, protecting yourself. So short-term, long-term, how a person deals with the knowledge and the understanding that there is a person present right here, right now, who appears innocent, good, nice, but they may show a completely different side of themselves elsewhere at a different point in the day, and then return back later like nothing ever happened, and you wouldn't know. That's a bit unsettling, and that's probably why Buster Bratamus feels that too. I don't think Buster Bratamus is in a position to talk too much with his or her their track record of behaviour. Okay, I'll be honest. But the general concept is, if you feel a bit cautious or wary of somebody, in terms of that feeling within, there's nothing wrong with it. How you then react and treat that person in the future, I guess it depends, right? Are you going to be really harsh and nasty on them? That might be a bit unnecessary. Are you going to be a bit more cautious and maybe not as trustworthy towards them? Yeah, and that's fine, that's normal. Because just like how you can get friendship groups, you've got a best friend, and then you've got just friends, and then you've got colleagues and just people you've got to be around. Different levels of connections with people. Just like how what you say around family could be different to what you say around strangers. It can differ from the connections you have and how close you are to different people, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, that's normal. There is a hierarchy, but it's normal, right? I was going to use some random example, but it probably should get misunderstood, so we'll leave that one out. But I just think that, like when it comes to like an audience or a community, how you might interact with people may change if you start feeling cautious of somebody. And that's somebody that notices that change of how they're treated. Sometimes they can get triggered, and I don't think they're in a position to get triggered. Sometimes not everything is always about them, but more about how a person avoids any more damage aimed towards themselves. Hence why defensiveness kicks in, defense mechanisms within the brain, not outright going about recklessly like some do, like Buster, but just being a bit more reserved on what's said, what's talked about. You know, like for all those people that do the communications in the background through emails or the calls, the text, phone people up, you know how you've had conversations, phone conversations back then with one another, it might change nowadays. Whereas you might have been contacting, communicating someone in the past quite often, might not be as frequent now, and through numerous factors. But if one of the factors is because you've become a bit more cautious, a bit more wary of somebody and their behaviour, you may not want to interact as much with them, because you may feel if you say the wrong thing, or you open up, or you're too honest, you share a sensitive detail or experience from the past, you might then suddenly feel that, you know what, they might use that as ammunition against you, material, right? So whilst it might feel like things are drying up or there's less communication, and some can take that as an insult, whinge and whine and complain, just remember and understand and respect that maybe that other individual has changed the cycle and routine because they want to avoid any more damage or pain towards themselves. So they either cut ties with people or they just reduce interaction. There's different measures and different responses and reactions from people, right? There's a range of people I can think of in which I'm like, you know what, I'm very cautious of, right? Not scared, just cautious, to prevent any more further problems in the future, right? Like there's been times way back in the past, like with school, where I've been in the presence of some cancer, and it seems all normal after the years, after some things that have happened or fallen outs with what they've done, because it's always them fucking up, not me. And you know, some people may find that hard to believe, but there's not really any other way I can word it. I'm being truly honest, right? There's actually a few key quotes which were mentioned, which we'll get to shortly with the stream. But just reflect back on, like, sometimes in real life, in the past, presence of others, and it's like, whoa, everything seems so normal and positive, and it's like, I seem to be the only one that hasn't forgotten what happened in the past with that person in front or that person there. And it's like, fucking two-faced cancer goldfish mentality, go screw yourself. At that time, at that moment, to prevent any more further problems or anything escalating or being brought up from the past, just put up with them, get on with the important stuff, and just as soon as it's done, walk away, gone, looking dead to me. Exactly what I initiated. Just about 99% of people in real life who I'm in the presence of, outside, people out there, school, college, whatever, are dead to me. Simple as. Axonal pruning, axonal sprouting, all under control there. That's why it always makes me think, would there ever come a time where if by some miracle, let's say I became popular or the channel grew massively, or let's say TikTok, and I was suddenly well known, not that it will happen, but if it did by a miracle, would people around me in real life, or more so people from the past, would they suddenly treat me differently now? Or would they try to get in contact with you? Do you know, like when you might get someone who becomes a celebrity and then suddenly all their high school friends or people they once knew suddenly are trying to get in touch with you. Why? Because they want to know you now. They want to associate with you now because you're popular and famous. You know what I'm saying? Would that ever happen here? Probably not. I don't think so. Because in my situation, it's unique. Okay? Besides the odd individual, never been bullied. Okay? You can get disrespected or the odd spasmodic behaviour. My experience is very unique and different. Whilst being a ghost, but not vulnerable for most part of it. Extremely interesting. But that's something completely different. What I just want to highlight now is, at the time of with Twin Mama and that falling out with the different people, it was Buster Bratamus calling out Smile Now, Cry Later. Joy Perry was jumping on in support of Buster. Joy Perry also believed that Smile Now, Cry Later was a traitor and didn't agree with it. But take in mind, Joy Perry had good connections with Jim Terry in the past and got on very well and even did some kind of interview and call. So it was okay then, but it's not now. So Joy Perry was once a Jim Terry supporter, but now suddenly isn't. And if anyone else is, shame on you. But also, it should be, if you're going to shame people for supporting Jim Terry right now, well, Joy Perry should shame herself because she did the same thing back then. Take in mind, Joy Perry contributed basically nothing to the Dylan Bramz case. As for my channel, all Joy Perry did was swear and complain, and then eventually right at the end started calling me out as well and insulting me. That was it. Pathetic excuse of a human once again. Joy Perry may be different elsewhere, but basing it off from one's experience and the Dylan Bramz case, they were useless and only contributed complaining, whinging, whining, and disruption to the case intentionally. Not a good look, is it? Okay? And Joy Perry seems to appear as a hypocrite for calling people out right now, like Smile Now, Cry Later, for supporting Jim Terry, but Joy Perry did the same thing in the past. So Joy Perry should be more understanding, but clearly isn't. So once again, Joy Perry, yet another one-dimensional individual with a one-dimensional mind. Disappointing, but it is what it is. In defense of Smile Now, Cry Later, you had the likes of Phil, don't know the full username, person with a top hat, mustache. I thought it was HHH Holmes, the serial killer. Turns out it wasn't. But I do think Phil is a problematic individual as well, such as on my channel. They didn't provide much contribution to the Dylan Bramz case, if not none. They were a bit problematic in how they responded at times, tried to be a bit cocky at times, and also very impatient with wanting to know about the case of Dylan without spending the time to listen and take it all in, just wanting to fast track in like an entitled human. So no good there. So basically, most of the people I've mentioned right now have been quite negative, but this is my experience. This is what happens with WarLike Ref, the catalyst. I revealed the dark side within people. Eventually. It's proven it time after time again. Is what it is. Now, a person called Pencil, I think an Australian individual, never come across Pencil, at least from my experience, so I can't say too much, right? But Pencil was defending Smile Now, Phil was as well, and Pencil then got into an argument with Buster. Eventually it was patched up and there was an understanding and apologies were made. But Pencil was saying how with Buster calling her for being a liberal and that being under that allegiance politically and stuff, that it made their opinions less important or something, and it was very silly. Now, in a general situation, how does the political stance get involved in a discussion that's not even to do with politics or anything like that. It seems nonsense. It just doesn't seem to link. But in a general situation, if you were in a general situation, just take that into mind, and you were having a disagreement or an argument with somebody and you just felt it was going round and round in circles, or you felt like you were dealing with a bit of a prat, sometimes if you do ask questions, what's your political stance? And they said liberal, you could be thinking, oh, that's why. It's kind of like when I've played video games and I've asked a person who's toxic afterwards, what country are you from? And they said, oh, I'm from Poland. Ah, well, that explains it. Or they said, I'm from Germany. Well, that explains it. I'm from Russia. Well, that explains it. Because a high percentage of people from those type of countries just so happen to be toxic tryhards in video games, such as first-person shooters. So Polish people and Russians, the way they play, their mentalities, their attitudes, not 100% of people from those countries, but a higher portion, right? I've seen it with my own eyes. So when you're dealing with a problematic individual or a possible problematic situation, and you just ask a few questions about that person, where are they from? What are they about? What do they support? What do they like? What do they dislike? Whilst it may not have a correlation to what you're talking about, if you can learn about the individual you're in the presence of, then you can determine whether it's worth continuing the conversation with them or not, right? So, not in this case, but just in general, if you came across a liberal, but a liberal do-gooder, Antifa far left, extreme left, you might think, do you know what? They're probably going to be lacking in her common sense, understanding, and opinions from other perspectives. They're probably going to be lacking. They're extreme, too much of a do-gooder. They feel that they're doing a lot of good for a country, but they're actually causing more problems than it's worth. Kind of like people from the UK, the UK do-gooders that are like, oh yeah, just let all these people into the country. It's a good idea. Let's be good. Let's be kind. Let's be accommodating. Is there enough room? Yes or no? Could it lead to further problems than it's worth? Possibly. Overpopulation, disruption, and all those housing and free hotel accommodations for all these people that just come on in like that. And some of which you let more people in, there's a higher chance that some of them that come on in could be terrorist or much worse, or just as bad other things too. Not saying that all that come on in are bad people, but the more people you let in, the higher the chances of a few more bad eggs coming on in too, right? So you feel like you're doing good by allowing this and allowing that, but you're actually causing more problems for the future. So if you're in an argument with somebody and you find out that they're under a certain allegiance or a certain mindset, you might think, well, you know what, based off that and how people like that can think, I'm probably going to leave myself out of this conversation and not continue anymore. And the other person could say, well, that's not fair. That's discriminating. That's making that's generalizing. But let me tell you something. There are times and moments and places where one has to generalize in order to be time efficient. If it doesn't cause that much damage at the end of the day, then it's not really the end of the world, is it? And I'm talking about it from like if you're having a conversation or an argument with somebody, you figure out that the person they are, the type of person they are, matches a profile of the type of people you've met in the past. Do you want to put yourself through trouble? Put yourself through more suffering? Put yourself through more wasted time with a lost cause? No. Separation, cut ties, forwards. That's it, right? So I don't think Buster Bratamus was thinking to that extent there with pencil. Maybe I'm a bit more advanced when it comes to observations, generalizations, right? Because the framework of how I go about things is, I make the observations and generalizations in my mind, and I repeat it over and over again, and I just so happen to be correct most of the time. So eventually, once it's got to that point where there's a consistency in those generalizations, then it can be talked about more vocally. Does that make sense? I'm not jumping the gun immediately outwards, but in here, I'm calculating it as I go along and learning at the same time and proving myself right too. Don't think Buster is at that level. I think Buster was more joking about. And I guess someone like Buster Bratamus, who associates themselves with the likes of Ty Corbin, an individual that relies on emojis and name calling when they're just simply advised to do some additional research in the Dylan Rounds case. Well, I can kind of understand how those type of people can relate together. A bit childish, immature behaviour, okay, at the ages they are, and how they respond back to just points made. Well, yeah, it doesn't surprise me, right? So, I don't know what the average IQ would be when it comes to certain communities out there. That is people could say that's completely irrelevant at the end of the day. But once again, generalize, get an understanding of a crowd, an audience you're dealing with. And then once you've got a better idea, then you can take a certain approach, can't you? For the best outcome for you and even them and for others too. So, yeah, with Buster, Joy Perry having a go at Smile Now, Cry Later, and Pencil and Phil back and forth. Then suddenly Watch Her Crazy came on in. And then was having it out with Fumble, back and forth. Fumble calling out Watch Her Crazy for the support, I guess, shown towards Salty Pancakes. Fumble Nuts doesn't like Salty Pancakes, but Watch Her Crazy does, or at least is in the presence of Salty Pancakes. So that didn't sit well with a few people there. What's my outlook on Watch Her Crazy? Basically being realistic and straight to the point. I've not had any problems with Watch Her Crazy. 0 negative run-ins when it comes to hair. I don't think Watch Her Crazy has done anything negative to me elsewhere either. So that's acknowledged and appreciated. So that, at least on my channel, Watch Her Crazy appears as a good individual. When I learned or heard about Watch Her Crazy being in the presence of Salty Pancakes, all that happened within her, I just felt a bit more cautious and wary. Did it lead to a change in treatment of those? Not really. I was just simply a bit more cautious and wary. And people, and some could take that as offense, but at the end of the day, I'm just protecting myself, and that is all, okay? When people start associating themselves with a certain channel out there, all of a sudden, let's just say, maybe more so afterwards, after I may have been attacked by a channel like that, I'm going to be cautious and wary because I'm thinking, right, okay, you haven't had any negative run-ins with that channel. That's fine, that's understandable. You can get on well with them. I have, though. Are you aware of that? Do you agree with those actions by that person? Do you think it's normal? Do you think it's right? A good example of that was when an example like American Honey, who was a Salty Pancakes supporter for quite some time, but during the time of when American Honey was supporting Salty Pancakes and Salty Pancakes labelled me a trafficker and created impersonation accounts of me, at least for the labelling part, with American Honey being present on my channel and being all positive, I just simply asked him a question saying, on the basis that if Salty Pancakes was labelling people this and that, do you think that's normal? Do you think that's normal? And American Honey said, no, it's not. It's not right. And that was at the time of when American Honey was supporting Salty Pancakes. I like to put things into perspective for people that claim or show a presence here in a positive way, but also a present elsewhere towards a darker force in which that community or that creator has attacked me. I'm not going to be telling people where they can and can't go, but I just want to know their thoughts on a matter regarding that creator they look up to. Just so I know, as a form of learning. It's kind of like in the past, like with the Watch Her Crazy being present on Salty Pancakes live stream. I don't know if Watch Her Crazy responded, maybe they did, I can't remember, but just as an example, at the time when Salty Pancakes was attacking me with the fake accounts, impersonation accounts, slander of me against YouTube TOS, that's a fact, and as well the fake labels and slander, calling out Raph a trafficker and that type of stuff, and other people too. Not right, no proof of it, it's slander. once again, against YouTube TOS. Whilst Watch Your Crazy has had positive encounters with Salty Pancakes up to now, at least, at the time I just simply just pointed it out saying, Watch Your Crazy, what's your thoughts on Salty Pancakes doing this and that to me? And that was it. Just to get an idea. That's one way you can learn about a person and what they think. So maybe as a way of preventing that implosion and those arguments within a community, just simply ask a certain person you might be cautious, wary of, or just ask anyone, especially if they come from elsewhere, what are your thoughts on this event, on this action? If you are here and if you are present and you supposedly like this channel, or you get on well here and you're positive, you're having a good time, and you also have a good time elsewhere, at least for a simple question being asked, what do you think of this particular action by a particular channel you're around? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? There's no harm. I know not everyone can answer publicly, because in the past, people felt trapped, and if they did say what was on their mind, it could lead to them being attacked by who they support, so they couldn't always vocally respond, right? But for the people that, you know, could be supportive on one channel and supportive elsewhere, and then comes a time where one of the channels is attacked by the other, and that supporter in the middle of it sits on the fence, says, well, do you have any proof of that happened? Or can we really be sure that it was this individual that sent that message? Can we really be sure that that's enough evidence to prove that? When it's like sitting on the fence, it just seems like awkward, really awkward, stubborn behavior. Not wanting to get yourself too involved, but wanting to be in the middle of it all so you can benefit both ways. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. But whilst the back and forth between Watch Your Crazy Fumble, that's a pre-existing Disagreements falling outs from previous, again. So it's still dragged on. During this alliance of where Twin Mama Bob Farrell and all the audience members gathered together, that came with Fumble Nuts and his crowd and audience, and then Watch Your Crazy, who's then associated with others since, and then with all being closer together in proximity, and one thing escalating from another, all in one go, that chain reaction of Buster to Smile Now, to Pencil to Buster, to Joy Poe to Pencil, to Phil to Buster, to then Watch Your Crazy to Fumble, and then it was Johnny Yarborough calling out someone called Stiffy, and then I think some person called Susie responding back to Stiffy saying, that's none of your business, F off. And it's like, what the fuck is going on there? Johnny Yarborough calling out Stiffy, and then Susie calling out Stiffy, and then a person called Indy who? Not Indiana 59, some other person. And then you had, Smile Now, Cry Later, or there was someone making a reference saying, besides Smile Now, Cry Later, you got Dale and Matt Lingo at Jim Terry's platform or channel showing support there. Are they spies as well? Are they to be trusted or not? Take in mind, for some of those people that were mentioned, do not get things misunderstood. As for language, that's not coming from my mouth, it was just reiterating what was said at the time. It was like passing the buck. It seemed as if during that implosion of all those people calling one another out, not exactly correlating to one another, because they've all got their own little disagreements and grievances with one another, it shows that things are a bit disturbed and a bit unsettled, and the cracks are still there, or at least was at the time. But then others were bringing others down and pulling them under the rug, saying, well, you're going to be calling me out. Well, what about Matt Lingo and Dale? They've been over there. They've been here and there. They tend to be here and there wherever the crowd follows, so they can get on well and hang out with people. What you'll find is when it comes to Dale and Matt Lingo, don't know about all the time, but on certain subjects, right? When a creator could be doing a video, when Matt and Dale are present, they're not there for the video exactly. They're having their own fun, hanging out with their friends, and that's it. So I can't really say too much there. But maybe other people out there are trying to pull Matt Lingo and Dale down with themselves for whatever reason. So I know, like when you throw someone under the bus, so who knows what could be happening there. Anyway, put aside, there's a few quotes from that night at the time. One person saying, they're all nice. They're all nice. Yeah. 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 I think someone was saying that, oh, you know, all the people here, we're all nice individuals present, and smile now, cry later. She's all nice, no wrong with her, done nothing bad. She's all positive, she's all good. Smile now, cry later. What? Well, I've seen a different side. I've seen Smile Now, Cry Later bash me, criticise me, and try and disrupt the Dylan Rounds case. I don't think that's a positive, is it? But you wouldn't know because maybe you haven't seen it. This is what I mean. People will have different perceptions of an individual, right? People that have positive interactions with Smile Now, Cry Later, it's true. It will be true for them. But others that may get on the wrong side or have a falling out with somebody and only see the negative, that's true as well. Both are true. Just different people, different times, different places, different factors in between which have triggered a certain reaction from a certain somebody. Thing is, with me, I've seen both sides, positive and negative. So I've got more of a fuller picture compared to other people out there. Okay. I think there's another quote there saying, salty won't rub off on others or something. Can't remember what that was. Salty pancakes wouldn't follow or lead elsewhere onto other channels, I think. I don't know if that's what Watch Your Crazy said. I think it might be. I think Watch Your Crazy said that salty pancakes wouldn't go to other channels to cause disruption, like rub on to others, spread, and cause more problems. That salty pancakes has his own problems or doing his own thing. I would say, honestly, there's been patterns and there's been trends. When I've responded or when I've defended myself against salty pancakes, it's led to fake impersonation accounts, or more so default fake accounts showing up shortly afterwards and latching on for a certain length of time, including the odd salty pancakes account, the real salty pancakes, that would then delete their comments afterwards to hide their trace. So most definitely, salty pancakes would spread onto other channels at times, right? If someone's calling him out, he's going to respond. If someone is defending themselves against Salty for what Salty has said, which has been incorrect, he will still come after you after. Probably not that bad, maybe short term. But Salty Pancakes does get about, whether it be his own account or possible fake accounts, right? I've seen it. Salty Pancakes in one of his live streams in the past, previously saying that he didn't have any alternative accounts. And then in one live stream, he publicly showed himself signing out of his account and logging into the Bazoint one, or the Jake the Snake account. He had 2 alt accounts. So for Salty Pancakes to outright lie at the time and for it to be documented too, and even documented and archived by Lacey H, well, once a liar, are they always a liar? You know? Serious lie made by Salty Pancakes at the time. What else is he lying about? That's what I base it down to. What else? When someone becomes a full-on hypocrite, you know, and they can't be trusted, what else are they a hypocrite in? The two-faced about this, what are the two-faced about elsewhere? It's like a slippery slope from there, at least, right? What was the other one? There was another quote saying Salty, he's called people names, or he's not called people's names. Oh yeah, I think that was by Watch Your Crazy maybe, saying Salty Pancakes, besides all the drama, he's only called people's names, whilst other people out there like Jim Terry supposedly have called out people's workplaces or Salty Pancakes and have caused more problems. I think Watch Your Crazy there was just putting it into perspective that people like Jim Terry and others have done far worse damage towards others than Salty Pancakes has. I think the fairest way of putting it would be equally, they've all done some negative things. Some do more than others, but they've all done some kind of negative stuff, right? And whilst some people can play it down, because I know people like to do the manipulative minimalization, Salty Pancakes hasn't just simply called people names. He has given out false labels and serious slander, which is a bit more serious than just name calling, if we're talking about simple insults, but also the fake accounts, impersonation ones. Impersonation of another individual, which can lead to serious repercussions and outcomes there if it does go wrong or if people are convinced by it, right? So Salty Pancakes hasn't just called people's names, he's done more than that. And I think people seem to forget that, which is very unfortunate. Anything else? Yeah, another quote mentioned in that live stream. It's not a big deal online, you know, it's all about in real life. Once again, positive or negative, humans make the severe failure in judgment in observations when it comes to playing down the importance of online. That in real life interactions only matters. Online doesn't. Sometimes it's help online which saves people's lives. Sometimes it's you're in a situation where you might be stuck on, say, a video game. You need some tips, like a hack in real life, learning stuff online, whatever. Someone's got advice, a new method in doing this, or cleaning that up quicker, or using old items for this, recycling, whatever, right? All kinds of tips. There can be a lot of helpfulness online. There can be a lot of guides online which can help you in real life, right? A lot of people nowadays will rely online, the internet, for answers on stuff before maybe in real life they go elsewhere to get answers, right? So online can play a big role these days, both positively and negatively, for a form of communication, interaction, or just simply searching and researching for stuff, right? So I think just to say online situations, positive and negatives, aren't a big deal, that's heavily underestimated, what I'd say, because there can be a lot taken from online. Take this into mind, right? Yeah, you can meet people in real life and they might be okay, but online there could be a completely different person because haven't got as many boundaries, and that anonymity, being anonymous, they can get away with it. What would you rather have? And I'll leave this as a final question for the end of this video. What would you rather have if you were in a certain situation? Would you rather be in the presence and meet somebody in real life first and you see their nice side, and then later come across them online for some reason, or in real life you see them later on when they get more comfortable in other ways, then you see the dark side? Or would you rather choose option B, you meet the person online first, where there's a barrier, digital, that anonymity, you see their dark side, you see what they're truly capable of, and then afterwards you may see their positive side if there is a more of an understanding or apologies are made? Which way would you rather have it? Would you rather see someone's positive side first and then negative later? You'd be caught off guard, you might be hurt by it because you thought you were on good terms with somebody, you thought you were safe or you could trust them, and then down the line they show that dark side. It takes longer, let's say in real life, because it's in real life. They might be not have the same confidence as they would online, that invincibility. So they wait for the perfect moment to strike in real life to hurt you when they feel comfortable, when maybe they see a vulnerability in you, then they strike. But when it's online, it's no holds barred. They can do it at any moment, any time. So basically, online interactions, you will see the toxicity in people quicker online than you do in real life. Hence why there's that general talk of that a lot of these people that are bad or negative, haters, whatever, the cowards in real life because they won't show that same intensity as they do online. And you can call them cowards, but I would say it's good that you can at least see them for what they are, because in real life, if they're not going to show that side to them, when will they? You see exactly where that's going. So get out the way, see the darkness within someone, and then measure it up from there on. That's more likely to happen online than in real life, because in real life it can take 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11 years to see that darkness within someone, and that's more damaging than if you saw it firsthand online. I know, because I've got full-on experience there, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. Nailed it. Okay, so I think that's it about now. Do a little summary if you don't quite follow this video. Generally, the cough, the tickle has kind of gone away from me talking quite a bit, which has actually shocked me. I've been restraining myself from talking as much, which maybe some people out there will think is a miracle. But when I was talking, it was constantly tickle, but now it's not. So maybe, like with exercise, you've got to push through it, and then it's not as tickly. I guess we'll see next time, right? Maybe I need to warm up my voice. I've never had to do that before, but at least from the second half of this video when recording, my throat hasn't tickled. I've not been coughing as much, right? But at the start of this video, I was coughing more often. So there's a bit of improvement. It might only be temporary. If it gets better, then I can do the more important videos on the different cases, okay? I know J Chuck has been active. I've acknowledged that, and what needs to be acknowledged and covered myself when I can actually do it physically, I will, okay? But to summarize this video, I basically made the prediction in the past that when people join up together from opposing communities and audiences, that there will be friction, there will be tension, and those grudges from the past will catch up eventually. If it's fractured from the beginning and fragmented, it will show eventually. That's what happened recently. A chain reaction. Not all linked to one another, all with their own individual issues with one another or so, but that chain reaction of how when one thing goes, all hell breaks loose. Lack of control, not a good look, and others out there, the dark force, Jim Terry, can use it as ammunition to say, well, hey, at the end of the day, whether they're supporters or not of our channel, those out there that are all got together and firm and strong and resilient, well, where's that loyalty? It doesn't seem to be shown. It's all those cracks forming and it's not a good look. It looks like they've lost control, stability. It's a mess. So critiques can be made from that, right? More so from my perspective, it's the observations tied with the prediction I got right from 1 year ago, because I said this is exactly what would happen, okay? Did I say what would directly happen straight after and onwards into the future? No, I didn't go that far, but, you know, with what I said at the time, it happened. Things have been patched up since, to an extent, but there's still that energy within, and it could erupt again in the future. And I think small subgroups will be created in the future. All these things like mutating and forming and then connecting and then breaking, detaching, reattaching and then going elsewhere. It's interesting, right? So, yeah, I think that's basically it. To take from this video is when negative predictions are made, like from me, feel free to listen. It could help you in the future. It could prevent further problems. You never know. So I think we'll leave it there for now. I said the purpose of this video now was it was supposed to be done several days ago, right? I couldn't because I couldn't really talk because I kept coughing. An example would be at the start of this video. So that's why I couldn't do it. So you can say the video is a bit late. Things have changed since, but as a form of reflection, and I think I'll include that in the title of this video, maybe, I got it right. That's a fact. I got it right. And I was just simply acknowledging it, but also highlighting what has happened, what could happen, and from my own experience, the damage that can come about and the unnecessary cancer within some, okay? So you want to take that on board, feel free to do so. It might help you in the future. And if not, because you've got it all under control, well, you can just remind yourself that you've got it under control and you're preventing damage and form of damage limitation, which is a good thing. So yeah, I'll see you next time, whenever that is. I might appear in live chats here and there on my premieres. I think I pushed myself too much before, cut it down a bit now, put so much in, get so much out, get that balance there. It's for the best. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Goodbye and good night.